Right then, so I'm just going to introduce you very briefly. So we've got Kirstie and Dani here from Lunar Mind.
And Bello Mind and Soul.
And Bello Mind and Soul.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll let you take the floor.
Okay, hello everybody. So we have got Daisy with us today, and as we said, Daisy is our therapy dog, and we'll talk a bit more about that. She's a bit naughty, but it's like she might
Had enough today.
So we're just here to basically talk about our services and who we are, our why, and just offer kind of new ideas of kind of like, you know, the support in mental health and the importance of bringing the like element of creativity and fun when we're talking about helping people with their mental health. Because I think sometimes it can feel very kind of doom and gloomy and a little bit too clinical, where we're wanting to help each other or help other people. So so I don't know if you wanted to begin just talking about, you know, Lunar Mind, where you began and your why, and then I'll go do the same.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm Kirstie Woolley. I've newly established Lunar Mind, which has come about. So I started as a frontline social worker. Not a massive fan of the system, if I'm completely honest, and wasn't making the changes I wanted to make. So my passion for going into social work originally was my dad. He was a child in care, didn't have the greatest experiences, went through a lot of trauma, and now has very, very severe mental health issues in his adulthood, which his coping mechanisms with that are drinking and smoking. Which is what my passion, determination is driving me forward for what I'm doing. So I went then into charity work after I came out of social services and put my main focus on trauma and attachment, and did further training and realised that actually my skill set, I wanted to enable that change myself, but working with other people who have got the same mindset. And my focus is around trauma and attachment, so that's about working with the whole family, not just one set individual, because I don't believe that if you just work with one individual, for instance if it's a child at risk of exclusion, that you're going to make a massive difference if you're not working with that whole family. So it's about making sure that you're getting the whole support for everybody. And if you can't support that, so I will always look at my professional boundaries. If I can't support that, then I will look at who can and signpost. And this is where our collaboration work came into, working with Dani, who's a trainee art therapist, and Rachel, who can't be here today because unfortunately she's got the dreaded COVID, but she has trained Daisy up to be a dog therapist. So she does a lot of work with me, and that enables young people especially to have that other person in the room, so I can speak through Daisy, and Daisy does some amazing work with me, and it really, really helps, and it's a good icebreaker into, well, getting a connection with young people. So that's a little bit about me. I'll pass you over to Dani, so thank you for listening.
Thanks, Kirstie. So I'm Dani. I started my business 5 years ago. So I specialise in using creative arts to help people express themselves and understand their trauma and understand how to make coping strategies for their mental health. The reason I've used art is because for me, I found art to be a place where I found home, and being someone who's mixed heritage, really struggled to find that place of where I belong and where my home is. And so I used art as a way to kind of just express my emotions and just to really understand myself, and that's why I do this for other people. When I use creative arts, what I do kind of like to use as a message is you don't need to be good at art to do it. Anyone can use art in their services. You don't need to be a trained art psychotherapist, because that's not the art psychotherapy. It's just using creative arts to have a go at just kind of like, you know, scribbling on a page can create so much of a way to kind of express that emotion and get it out, but also create a sense of relaxation as well. So yeah, if she needs to go out, that's fine.
But she's weed, it's not the
I think she wants to take the show, that's fine. Anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, I started my studying in 2015 when I did creative and therapeutic arts in Wales, and sadly one of my friends passed away, and it was a really hard time, and that's when I really recognised, okay, well, what am I doing for myself and how can I help other people? I started working in the National Autistic Society and working with people with autism and using art, and I was working with somebody who really struggled to kind of talk and express themselves verbally, but really wanted to connect, but people didn't know how to help this person connect. So we just started making art together. We just started painting together, and through that, like each week, I started to understand and mirror ourselves and our relationship together, and that's when he started to gain an understanding and felt like someone actually heard him and felt like someone actually understood him. And near the end of our intervention, he started to start to use a little bit of verbalisation with other people, and he started to feel more calmer in that space. So then from that intervention, I then started my own business, and I've worked with CAMS, and I've worked with Mind, and I'm regular on the radio as well, on Radio 4, and I constantly talk about the importance of mental health, but not only that, but early intervention, because when we focus on early intervention, that's when we can prevent crisis. And to do that, I really believe the power of art is so important, because it offers so many people a different way of being able to express themselves and not having to have a barrier of, I need to know everything that's going on, I need to understand it. But actually, when we start to name things through using art and using kind of mindfulness and meditation, because I use that in my artwork as well, that can help us kind of bring them back in the present moment, spend a bit of time together, connect with the art, connect with themselves, and recognise that actually all the power that's happening in the room between me and that client is coming from them and it's not coming from me. So then I started, so after working in organisations, working with kids and working with adults as well, I started my Masters in art psychotherapy, and that was the year before. And I've got 1 year left now, and I've worked in brain injury and really seen a whole different type of way of working with art in a really clinical setting, and how actually having that triangular relationship with your client to help them make sense of their trauma and help them make sense of themselves and really help them understand who they are through using psychoeducation has even elevated this use of art and creativity. I think my message really today, and to have this kind of talk, is that don't be afraid of using art in your services. Don't be afraid of using paper or having someone scribble out their emotions or whatever they need. You don't need to know everything around that. They might just need that at that moment in time. But then if you feel like you need someone to refer them to have a bit of a longer kind of conversation or to unpack that with, then that's important to kind of look into art therapy or someone within that service that can offer that psychoeducation and that support in that. And I think also the reason that we've come together today is from working with kind of young people and adults in the work that I do, I really noticed that because there's only one of me, that young person's family, because I work in schools as well, that young person's family weren't understanding why this person might have needed this support, or actually how do they gain the support as well. And that's why we've worked together, because Kirstie's so great at being able to offer that support to parents whilst I'm working with a child, or vice versa, and that we can actually share that caseload together to eliminate the waiting lists and to also offer kind of a holistic approach and have that element of not one size fits all. So I bring kind of Daisy into my sessions because I think using art is really important, but not only that, the most important when I start my interventions and I work in group settings and with one-to-ones as well, that settling the body is the most important thing that you can do when you're working with somebody.
It's connection.
It's connection. Yeah, bringing yourself back into the present moment and connecting again with an animal can bring so much to it. But when you've got dog therapy there, it really helps them feel like, okay, now I can relax, and then it takes away that fear of making the art.
And they don't want to be judged either, so it takes away the fear of actually, what is this person going to think of me if I say the wrong thing, or not wanting to open up because they feel let down from everybody else they've worked with. So for instance, we spoke the other day, didn't we, about a young person that you've been working with, and
Yes.
they had said how many social workers they'd had, and how many people that they actually feel rejected by, and it just opens my eyes into how much we all use the working together policy, but actually how far away we are really from it in society. And that's sort of where we want to make that change as well, because it's so important to make a change to young people's lives and actually grow up and not be another statistic where they've been failed and they're now struggling with adult mental health, as opposed to getting help early on.
Yeah, and I think the use of kind of dog therapy, art therapy and therapeutic social working together, like you say, offers that early intervention and offers that holistic support so that it prevents that crisis as well. And I think that's the main important message as well, what's important to convey, to focus on early intervention and supporting the family as a whole. Is there any questions or anything else you wanted to say?
No, there's nothing else I want to say.
Okay. Is there any questions from anybody? Yeah.
Hi, so I'm Rachel. I'm an occupational therapist in the Young People Social Prescribing team, and I think what you said is absolutely amazing in terms of art, letting it be expressive, and actually there doesn't need to be a fixed way of doing it. It's whatever they want it to be. I just wondered whether you could deliver things as a group, so in a group setting, or is that something that is at the moment preferred to be kind of like one-to-one in terms of your working style?
So I work in a group as well as one-to-one. So I offer different packages. So for schools, I have like kind of transition packages helping kids kind of transition from year 6 to year 7. I also have other transition packages such as building resilience. And for adults, I have packages such as kind of working on anxiety, stress, coping mechanisms, burnout. So I offer group packages which are, you can either book it into a one-off or there's also courses that I do because I think sometimes having that, not sometimes, it's important to have that repetitive kind of, understanding and having that relationship in that group so that you can start to, my most important thing that I try and kind of express out there is that if I'm offering kind of a skill or a technique for them to take it in their own way and apply it in their own way so that they can find, their own way of working with themselves and coping and managing with their mental health without having me in the room. So yes, I do group workshops and one-to-ones. Did you want to say anything else?
We've just developed our own as well, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
So sort of bringing in, because with my work it varies depending on the client's needs. But we've just brought in like a bit of my side of education and then your creative side into Safe Spaces workshop for young people. That is just going out to schools at the moment and actually that can be for parents and carers or the children, so you can adapt that into actually them understanding their triggers and coping mechanisms, which is really important, and just allowing them a safe space to discuss that as well.
And also coping mechanisms of when we feel like we're in an unsafe space and how do we create those safe spaces for people that are around us as well for ourselves. So I hope that answered the question. Is there any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.